Let's get it. As I was watching the Polygamy Propaganda show, because I'm doing this whole retrospective where I'm going back and watching some of the earlier seasons as to what happened in Sister Wives and where we are now so that I can have a better understanding as we move into season 18, what's going on, I got to tell you that there's so much propaganda that's put out about this family, from this family, trying to normalize certain types of relationships. And I'm not even saying, I'm not even going to come out and say carte blanche that, polygamous or polyamorous relationships can't work. I think they can work, but I think that they have to be approached with extreme care, extreme caution. And I think that the people who are participating in the relationship, as with any relationship, have to be 100% participants of the relationships and not necessarily just sitting around being spectators, as well as it requires such a sophisticated form of maturity for you to be able to deal with the inherent jealousies, rivalries, and problems that would be associated with this type of relationship. And Sister Wives on TLC, they made it look easy. They put the whole relationship on easy mode. Everybody gets along, and then when you get married and you have the 4 queens, as Kody said, in chess, a king, if he has 1 queen, he can control the board. But if he has 4 queens, imagine what he could do. He could control the world. That sounds amazing. But the problem is, in most cases, you don't have the ability to give the queens the power and the freedom for them to be able to act and react the way they need to their fullest capacity so that you can control the world. In most of the relationships that I've seen on TLC or other shows or programming, 90% of the time, if not 99% of the time, the people who are involved, whether it's the seeking sister wives or seeking brother husbands, the people who are involved in these relationships either spend most of their time trying to restrict and condense the other person, make them small, or they are the victims of that approach and are shrunk down and made small so that they can be comfortable and fit comfortably into that relationship. I don't see the family where everybody is encouraged to grow and develop and become the best that they can become so that you can move the family as far along down the board as you possibly can. That just doesn't exist, especially when we talk about the marriage and the arrangement of the family and how this family is structured, the Brown family specifically. Now, before I get into it, I would simply ask that if you're getting anything from the videos, you're enjoying them, go ahead and give me that thumbs up. It's easy to do. It's free. Hey, why not? It helps me out. And if you want to help a brother out and you're not yet subscribed, go ahead and give me that HBO special, which stands for Help a Brother Out Special, by clicking the subscribe button and ringing the bell for notifications. It helps me out, helps the channel out. Hey, who doesn't want to help a brother out? So HBO special. Now, when I get into it, I specifically want to say that when we talk about the importance of the legal marriage in the polygamous relationship, off rip, especially when it comes to the Brown family, I have 2 positions that I would take, and I'm looking at myself as a person who would be a considerate person and a more functional leader than the way Kody Brown does it. I'm sorry, I just feel that way. When you look at it, if you believe that everybody can't be the legal wife, then in my mind, nobody should be the legal wife. You shouldn't have a legal wife because, as expressed by Kody on numerous occasions, you can't have one wife in charge of other wives. In fact, let's listen to Kody say that in his own words.
I can't have a wife being in charge of my other wives. Never.
Never. That's great. It sounds wonderful. But the fact of the matter is, if you have a legal wife, you do have a wife who is in charge of all the other wives. It's just the way it works. By definition, she is the wife who is legally bound to you. Half of everything that you've acquired belongs to her. Everything you have is community property, which includes anything you own with one of your other wives. Now, looking at that to give the broader perspective, and then we'll drill down into it, and I brought receipts. But as we look at that and we start to ask the question, okay, fine, you have to have a legal wife. Because somebody at the end of your life cycle or whatever the case may be, something happens to you, you have to have somebody who can make decisions. Of Kody's 4 wives, would I pick Meri, Janelle, Christine, or Robyn? Of all 4 of those women, my selection for the legal wife position would be Janelle. This has nothing to do with niceness, personality, or any of that. What this has to do with is the just factual, logical decision that you want somebody who is going to be able to distribute assets without fear or favor from any of the other wives. That it's not going to, her decision to pass on your assets or make sure family members are going to be taken care of will have nothing to do with whether she gets along with them, whether she likes them or not. People are going to get what they need. People are going to get what they deserve. If you instruct her or tell her that this is what it is and she goes along with it and she agrees with it, she will make sure it gets done. How do I know this? Because of the situation that Janelle found herself in. Janelle gave and gave and gave financially to the family to her detriment. Even though her family and her kids didn't have, she continued to give to the family because that's what she agreed to do. That's who Janelle is. Janelle is also the person who's going to make sure that the finances are taken care of in a way that there is something to pass down to the kids or pass to the other wives upon your passing. This is something that is critical. Janelle is the person who does the finances now. She's the person who does the money now. So why would you give that responsibility to someone else? If something were to happen to you, Janelle is the person that, if you're in the hospital and the doctor comes to you and he has to make the hard call of, do we knock his leg off? He's unconscious and we're trying to figure out whether we cut his leg off or whether we just save him or try to save the leg and possibly risk his life. You want Janelle making that decision. You don't want Christine or Robyn. I ain't dating no man with one leg. You know what I mean? You don't want people who are going to make selfish, shallow decisions based on how it's going to affect them. And this isn't saying that Christine or Meri or Robyn would do something that would be nasty or make decisions that are nasty or whatever, but you want somebody who is a little more grounded as far as logic is concerned. And that person, in my view, would be Janelle. So if anybody was going to be the legal wife, only for the fact that the legal wife is supposed to be the administrator of your estate upon your death or upon your incapacitation, Janelle would be the best candidate for that. But in the Brown family, that's not what happened. In the Brown family, Meri was the legal wife. And whether you like it, love it, or hate it, she was the original wife, so it made sense that Meri might be the legal wife. She's the one that got there first. She got the prize. Okay, fine. Everybody ate it. Everybody joined the family. But as you talk about restructuring the family, because that's what this is, then you have to ask the question, who would be the best person? Kody decides, or at least the storyline indicated, that they were going to give the legal status to Robyn because they were going to adopt the kids. And again, I have a whole bunch of stuff I want to say about this adoption because this adoption has rubbed me the wrong way, and I'm going to explain why it was wrong and why everybody involved with this adoption is a horrible person. If anything that they said on the show is true, and this is all the evidence that we have because this is all the evidence that they presented to us, then I'm telling you that they're wrong in the way they went about it. But I digress. I think that the adoption and them taking on kids is something that Robyn necessarily wanted. Kody probably for ego's sake, but the reason why Robyn wanted to become the legal wife goes way deeper. And I'm going to use the clips from the show to demonstrate and back up my point. Now, the first point, if you recall, back in season 8, when the anthropologist came out to visit the Brown family and observe them, there was a conversation that happened around the dinner table after they got finished playing football, roughhousing outside. The adults came back in and they were having a conversation about marriage and why the families are disintegrating and so on and so forth. And this is what Robyn had to say.
No disrespect for Richard or Antoinette or their lifestyle in any way, but in their personal lives, this is what they're doing. They're choosing to have a partner live with them for an extended amount of time, committed, but at the same time, no legal marriage involved. And For me, it just kind of felt like they were saying, this is the better way.
Yeah, no legal marriage involved. Like, they want to live with their partner, they want to be committed to their partner, but they don't want to be legally married. And they feel like they're saying this is the better way. Lady, you are doing the same thing. What are you talking about? You sitting with 2 other women who are doing the same thing because the only legal marriage at that time was Meri. So Robyn was knowledgeable about the fact that this is something that's going on, and she was knowledgeable about the fact that this is something that she didn't like. She didn't like the fact that she wasn't legally married. And we can even go further with that. So she knows that she's not legally married. She's aware that not being legally married and residing with somebody and creating a household and cohabitating with somebody is wrong. And this is something else that she had to say in that same interview.
I don't want my kids to hear this. I think if it works for Richard and Antoinette and anybody else in the world, awesome, you know? But I would rather not this be something that my kids, you know, see as like, oh, this is a great thing too. I mean, like, I don't feel like my children are ready or mature enough to actually hear that this is something that's a choice.
So she already expressed that the legal status of being married is important, not only for her, but it's important to her kids. Because as we recall, as I discussed in my last video, the primary reason why she got into this relationship in the first place was to secure her children's future. Now, as she tries to shape her children's future and their worldview, she also wants to establish that you should never live with somebody or be associated with somebody, no matter how much you love someone, no matter what your commitment is to that person, the depth, breadth, or longevity of that commitment. It doesn't matter unless you're legally married to that person, because that is the most important thing. And she said that it was, an example she wanted to set for her kids, that this was something that you don't do. You don't cohabitate with people unless you're legally married. Now, this is well before they started talking about the adoption and Meri divorcing Kody because she wanted to, adopt the kids and all that foolishness. Again, was something I want to talk about. But I don't think that was the thing that was weighing on her mind when she started first broaching and approaching the idea that she wanted to be legally married to Kody. Now, to tag on to that very idea, when Meri actually did get the divorce from Kody, and Robyn was talking about getting married and legally marrying Kody, they wanted to do this whole thing where the kids would be involved and the kids were aware, and it was very important to Robyn that her kids were aware and present for when she became legally married. Why is this the case? You're already married. You already had a huge ceremony. In fact, the ceremony that Robyn had when she married Kody was bigger than the ceremony that Janelle had, which was basically a dinner, because according to Janelle, most of her family wasn't coming anyway because they disapproved and disagreed with the whole polygamist aspect of her relationship. And in Christine, she basically had a dinner as well, a little dinner and reception that she had for after the ceremony. But she didn't have this big elaborate, 500 people guests and big tents and party and everybody dancing and celebrating. And then she didn't have the 2-week honeymoon that Robyn had. The families didn't do these things. Hell, Meri didn't have the 2-week vacation or honeymoon that Robyn had when she first initially married Kody and came into the family. So that didn't exist. But let's take a listen to what the positions were with regard to this big celebration.
We've been married. We've had a marriage.
Right.
We had a celebration about that marriage.
Right.
I'm almost thinking that because it's just a formality, it's something that you and I just go and do. Get it done. I'm sorry. No pomp, no circumstance, no nothing. Just get it done. Nobody even knows when it happened.
Look at her face. She is hot as hell. Like, what? Are you out your mind? And this is what I'm talking about. Now, to keep in mind, I don't think that this is something that Kody came up with himself. Because as I was watching the program and I saw him say that, there's a natural instinct to say anything that comes out of Kody's mouth is wrong. I don't think that this was wrong. I think that this was the appropriate thing to do because, like I said, it shouldn't be, if it's done for a reason and you're getting legally married for a reason and you're elevating one of the wives over the other wives, it should be for a very good reason. If you're doing it for that reason, then it should just be for that reason and not for the celebration or recognition that you're doing this thing. It should just merely be a cog or a gear in the machine. Now, when you hear Kody say this, I can't help but to think, because he had the exact opposite position before when he was talking to Robyn and he was talking to Meri, I think that what happened was he went, sat down and talked to Janelle. This sounds like Janelle. When I heard him say that, I was like, that's Janelle talking. And as the wives express, you can tell who Kody talked to last by what he says and how he says it. What he said was something that came from Janelle. You got all these people who are going to show up to this event. It's no longer just you swapping papers because you're trying to adopt some kids or whatever the case may be, whatever bull crap line you said earlier. This is you celebrating a union. This is you starting a life together. This is not you continuing your life in just a slight change. This is you starting your life together. It's official. It's a difference. You understand that there's a difference. That's why it's so important so many people show up. So let's listen to what Kody had to say with regard to how Robyn was taking it and why it was important to Robyn.
Robyn really wants Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna to be at the legal marriage, kind of the justice of the peace marriage. Meri's going, well, I want Mariah to be there too. And I'm like, well, then we need Janelle and Christine there. I think we need all the kids there. Meri even suggested that we have Elvis do it.
This starts becoming another wedding. That's
Right.
not what this is. We had our marriage 4 years ago.
And for once, that was the most responsible thing Kody said. Yeah, because if we start inviting people and, of course, if your kids are there, Robyn, and then we got to bring Meri in and Meri comes and at the time Leon's got to show up or, that name Mariah, they have to show up. And then once they show up, then all of a sudden we're leaving out two of the wives, Christine and Janelle. And then when they show up, they want to bring their kids. Next thing you know, we have 50 freaking people sitting in a chapel somewhere and we're celebrating a new marriage. We're already married. Again, I think that this is Janelle talking. I don't think this is Kody. And it would look ridiculous. So at that point, and what it does also is that it clearly establishes that there is a significant difference between being the legal wife, legitimate wife, and being the fantasy wife or girlfriend that you call your wife. And that's what this is. And that's what the reality of the situation is that even the people who are on this polygamist propaganda program, even they have to acknowledge that there is a substantial difference between the legal wife standing and the committed celestial wife. Again, how do we know that I'm not just putting words in Robyn's mouth? I'm not attributing my beliefs onto Robyn and the Brown family. Because in Robyn's own words, she talks about the responsibilities of the legal wife.
This means that what it could mean, if Kody were to pass, it would mean that I would be responsible to make sure that everybody's taken care of.
Oh, I would be responsible to make sure everybody's taken care of. I would have control of all the money. What? James, that's not what she said. She's not saying she would have control of all the money. That's exactly what she said. Not only did she say that, but she went on to elaborate about what could happen if somebody had control of all the money. Let's take a listen to that clip.
We want this legal marriage to not matter, all of us do. But truth be told, it would matter if something big were to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I know that my sister wives, they should trust me.
Yeah, they should trust you because if something were to happen, then the legal wife takes control of the situation. She has control of all of Kody's assets, everything. Anything that has his name on it, whether it has a name of Meri, Christine, or Janelle. If Kody's name appears on it, then when he dies or something happens to him, those assets and his rights to those assets immediately transfers over to Robyn. And those assets are Robyn's and whoever because she has the right to inheritance. Because that's community property. And they keep moving to community property state. It's not just in case somebody dies. If Kody gets sick, and here's the thing that I don't think a lot of these ladies and a lot of the people who are involved with this really talk about. If Kody gets sick and he's in the hospital, the legal wife gets to decide who goes back. So if there's a chance that Kody might only have, say, an hour left, she could decide that she wants to spend that full hour with him, holding his hand and saying goodbye, and leave the other 3 wives out. If just the wives show up, Robyn can make the decision that, well, I could have Kody sit back there. They said we can only go back for 15-minute increments. I went back, and instead of me giving it to the other 3 wives where they can go back and say goodbye, my kids are going to go back and say goodbye because that's what's important to them. And there's nothing the other women can do. Meri's been with him the longest. She has no say. It's not just the instance where somebody dies and who gets control of the assets. It's also life decisions. If Kody has a ton of money and there's a possibility he can be saved if they do this surgery, she just has to authorize it. And she just wants the money. No, I don't want him saved. Go ahead, kick that plug up out the wall. That's that. I'm done with it. And I'm going to go ahead and take our money and I'm moving back to where I want to move. I want to move to my hometown, or I want to go start my career in California because I've been on a TV show for 16 years or whatever the case may be. And there's nothing that these other ladies can do about it. Again, let's listen further to what Robyn had to say about why this is so important, why being the legal wife is so important, and why it's such a critical role in the family.
The only reason why this is in my head is because I've seen plural families where a husband dies and a first wife or the legal wife is responsible for his estate. And I've seen some women abuse that.
Like I plan to do. And she's seen where some women have abused that. But at the end of the day, she's securing her position. Because if she's the decider, then she gets to decide who gets what and who deserves what. So if it's a question of whether she has to give up her home or give up some property or give up something so that one of the other wives could have or some of the other kids could have, she makes that decision. When we talked about Coyote Pass, and I mentioned in my previous videos a while ago, almost a year ago, I mentioned in the video about Coyote Pass. When you look at Coyote Pass, Kody was committed to making 5 lots on Coyote Pass. How many kids does Robyn have? 5. So if something were to happen to Kody, and Kody has been extremely resistant to building anything on Coyote Pass. He's been very resistant. When Janelle was talking about she wanted to go down to Coyote Pass and pay off, one of the properties was paid off, and that's the property she wanted to start building on. Kody said, no, we're not building nothing on Coyote Pass till Coyote Pass 100% paid off, and we're going to push that goalpost down the line, down the line, down the line. And every time you get ready or get close to meeting that goal, we're going to push it down a little further. Because if something were to happen to Kody, if Kody would have fell out the day before, or a tree would have fell on way out there trying to shuck wood or whatever the hell it is, if that something would have happened, Robyn makes the decision on what happens with that property. Sorry, folks. Robyn makes the decision. And it's, oh, well, their names were on some of this stuff. Yeah, their names were on it. But your name being on a property doesn't give you the right to build on that property unless the other people whose names on that property agree. You can't make any changes to that property unless the other people on that property agree. Well, won't that stop Robyn from being able to give it to her kids? No, she could pass her interest on to her children, and she could prevent Janelle or Meri from building anything on any of the properties where their names appear. And she can stymie them and stall them out and maybe get that land for pennies on the dollar before everything is through. So these are some of the things that I'm sure Robyn was thinking about as she broached the idea of marrying Kody and marrying into the family and becoming the legal wife. And no matter what anybody says, no matter how they try to paint it, no matter what pretty language they use, when rubber meets the road and we hit that bottom line, the only voice that matters in the family is the legal couple that binds the family. So if you go 30 years, 40 years, and you're pouring all your finances and building up your husband's wealth because you and your husband are going to have this great time and you're not legally married to him and he's legally married to somebody else, then you are fattening the pockets of his legal wife. That's my take. I'm James. This has been my take on reality, and I'm out. 'Cause I've been living life.